This camera changed everything for me. The Sony FX3 is a camera that came out in 2021, so after 3+ years of experience using this camera, does it still hold up today, and is it a camera that I'm gonna continue to stick with? This video is sponsored by Sony, but I would say after 3 years of using this camera that this is probably a pretty genuine promotion. So quick story, back in April of 2021 when I was living on Maui, the FX3 kind of accidentally became my main camera.
Shit, first time using the FX3.
It was nothing more than a B cam to my Canon C200 at the time, where I was gonna test out the camera for the first time on some gimbal shots and just see how it was on day one of a cycling film. So not even a couple hours into that shoot, I was trying to get a top-down shot of the cyclist riding by on the road. So to do that, I climbed up this cliff that overhung the road. But as I was climbing up, my C200 slipped off the back of this cheap tripod head that I had and crashed 30 feet onto the pavement. Little did I know in that extremely traumatic moment that it would be the start of a 3+ year relationship with my all-time favorite camera. So with all the new and exciting cameras that are continuing to come out this year and the next year, is the Sony FX3 a camera that can hold its own? Is it a camera that I'm going to continue to use for the foreseeable future? I think you know what I'm about to say. The answer is yes, and here's why. This is an object. This is a piece of equipment that has empowered me to want to go out and to make things on my own terms. I just remember in that first experience using the FX3, I felt like I had nothing holding me back. I felt like I was able to always be in the right position at the right times, capturing exactly what was in my head on an extremely highly dynamic shot, basically by myself. I had a production assistant. That short film became one of my most successful. It inspired a ton of people creatively, got me a lot of work. It got a Vimeo staff pick, and most of all, I just remember having so much fun going out and filming. This camera made me so excited about what was possible and opened up a huge realm of future potential projects that I would be able to capture on my own. It's a camera that I went on to make music videos with, documentaries, commercials, narrative projects. The range of this camera and what I've been able to achieve with this camera with the most minimal resources is absurd. So that's how I fell in love with this camera, but the thing that keeps me in love are the tech specs. And you know, I'm not like a tech spec kind of guy, but there's some really important features that make this camera perfect for a filmmaker like myself. I enjoy tech and gear that makes me forget about the tech and gear that I'm using so that I can be fully immersed in the world of the thing that I am shooting. First of all, the small form factor. Such a beautiful camera in such a small body that you can do pretty much anything with. You can put it on a gimbal, you can pop it on a tripod. If you're holding it for a super long interview that you're doing handheld, your arms aren't gonna get extremely tired. You can rig it into cars, onto bicycles, onto anything. You can rig it up high. There's really no limitations on the shot variety that you're able to achieve with such a small form factor. Continuing on the physical build, it's just freaking built well. Like, it doesn't feel like every other mirrorless camera that you've ever held. Like, this thing does not feel like it's gonna break. I put my cameras through the absolute ringer. Dust, dirt, rain, impact, no matter what it is, I am risking everything to get whatever shot I need, and the camera better be up to par. And I've had the camera that I'm filming with right now is my original FX3, and that thing is so beat up and continuing to work so beautifully. On my movie, it actually got fully submerged in water, died for a night, and then in the morning, it just magically came back to life, and haven't had a single issue with it since. It's a camera I know I don't need to be soft with, and I know I'm not gonna have to replace over and over again. Next, it has IBIS, and it's one of the few cameras with internal body stabilization that I actually leave on because it feels really fluid and natural, unlike a lot of the other mirrorless cameras that I've used. Obviously, I like to rig out my cameras for handheld. The heavier the camera, the more organic and natural, and the more you're gonna get rid of those nasty jitters that you don't want. But you can straight up use this thing without all the rigging out and you get a really nice handheld look. Granted, I do like to still pack on some weight just because I like the feel when I'm shooting handheld, but the combination of that, leaving the internal body stabilization on, you're gonna get a really nice image. Next is one of my favorite parts about this camera, and it's the autofocus. I like to do a lot of projects solo. I don't have to worry about hiring an AC to pull focus. The autofocus inside this camera is unmatched in my opinion. It's so reliable, I've never had to worry. I put it through the craziest shoots of all time with so much dynamic motion and movement, and it holds up every single time. Audio-wise, perfect setup for me. I can plug in a shotgun mic and also lav up a subject if I'm shooting documentary or whatever it is. The dual native 12,800 ISO where you can pretty much get a clean image when things start to get dark. I can't tell you how nice it is to have a clean 12,800 ISO that you can always rely on when you're in blue hour and things start to get too dark. You can bump that up and you end up finding out you have to put ND on your camera because you're getting so much more exposure. It really does give you like an extra hour of shooting in the morning, hour of shooting at night. When you're shooting inside, you don't have to set up a bunch of lights to boost the ambience of the natural light in the room. When you boost it 12,800, you'll see how bright it gets, and you'll usually have to find yourself again, putting ND onto your camera in dark situations. The dynamic range on this thing, wildly impressive. I never feel like I have to worry about my highlights, and I always feel like I'm completely in control of my exposure. The files are very easy to open up in any editing software and very easy to edit with. The colors on this thing are insane. I usually just use the SI 10-bit 422. S-Log 3, Cine Gamut 3. That's all I ever need. I feel like I have all the range in the world to push in whatever stylistic direction I want while I'm color grading. Never had any issues with not having the flexibility that I wanted. And again, Sony is continuing to release firmware updates for the cameras. I know there's a lot of new features that have implemented into the software of these cameras, like shutter angle and all these other great features that have truly made it into a cinema camera. That's what it is. Literally the only thing tech-wise that I would complain about and want are built-in NDs, but I'm so used to just using VNDs at this point that it doesn't matter for me. And my fear is that if they did implement internal NDs, is that gonna make the camera bigger, which I do not want. I want the camera to stay this size. It's so nice when you find a camera that you love and you don't have to stress about watching, camera tutorials about the next cameras. You don't have to worry about what's coming out next or constantly spending a ton of money on cameras that you end up not liking and wanting to use in the future. It's so nice knowing that this is it. This is all I need. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't have to stress about what's coming out. This is a camera I love. I'm confident in using and going to continue to create really epic things with. In conclusion, the Sony FX3 is just, the perfect camera for me. It's everything I've ever wanted and everything that I need for the foreseeable future in a small form factor. And it's a camera that has basically just become an extension of myself and allows me to have the creative freedom and headspace to just exist in the project that I'm creating at the time. Maybe a camera will come around one day that blows my socks off, but until then, this is my camera. Thanks for watching. I love you. Bye.